Hey everyone, Token Dave over here, the dorky token black guy that's just trying to get by. And welcome to the first edition of Helltober. Now for those that didn't watch the intro video, Helltober in a nutshell is basically my celebration of Halloween and horror in the month of October. You know, acclaimed horror author Stephen King has been put back to the forefront of the mainstream due to the success of the movie adaptation of his novel It that was released last month. But this was not the only Stephen King property that was released this year. Over the summer, he had a TV series and another movie that was released. While both were not as successful as It, everyone is saying that 2017 is the year of the Stephen King resurgence. And I disagree. The real start of the Stephen King resurgence was not from his direct property, but was from the sleeper hit of the summer, Netflix's Stranger Things. And yes, I said it was a sleeper hit, but it was sleeper in the summer, but by the fall, it became a successful fall phenomenon. And the season 2 is actually going to be released next week, and I can't think of a better way than to kick off Helltober with my review of Stranger Things. So, for those that have not seen or know what the series is about, it's taking place in 1983 in a fictional suburban town called Hawking, Indiana. After playing Dungeons and Dragons with his friends, 12-year-old William Byers is gone missing. His uncanny and sudden disappearance has actually basically created 3 major focal search parties. On one party are his 3 closest friends, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas. His second party is basically his single, struggling, and mentally unstable mother, along with his recluse, loner older brother. And the third party is from local police chief Hopper. Each of their own separate searches end up being connected to a governmental conspiracy that goes beyond our reality. Now, unlike movies, TV series has a much better time and a much easier way to adapt characters. Unlike most TV series, however, Stranger Things quickly establish and develops their characters. The one character that took the longest to actually develop and that became very likable was, in fact, Chief Hopper, portrayed by David Harbour, whom is going to actually be our new Hellboy. And his character was very surprising. I didn't see myself liking this guy. I did not think I would like this guy at all. He came out like, the typical jaded cop and everything that was overworked and kind of desensitized. But there's more to him than meet the eye. Of course, everyone talks about the breakout character, 11, aka L, portrayed by Millie Bob Brown, whom is actually going to be the protagonist in the new Godzilla movie, Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I'm highly looking forward to. And it's easy to see why Elle is the breakout character. She's got this mysteriousness, but has telekinesis abilities and all, which actually Elle is very reminiscent to Charlie, the character from the lead character in Stephen King's Firestarter, right? Now, I mentioned those characters, and all the characters are great, but I'm going to also have to give a shout out to 2 particular people. And I forget the child actor's name, but the character Dustin, was clearly my favorite character of the whole season thus far. Dustin, had a bit of a lisp, something that while I don't have, I do have a stutter, and you guys can hear that easily. And he was also a bit of the comic relief. Not the intentional comic relief, but some things he said and some things he did come off a bit comedic, but not like that, like goofy comedy that I do and everything. He was very subtle about it, but he was also very sweet and innocent and endearing, and I saw myself heavily like him. Now, another character that basically, while plays a very important part, I really feel he was kind of underserviced, but he was still cool to follow, and that was Will's older brother. Will's older brother, is, like I said, a recluse and somebody that was like very distant and very much a loner, something that I definitely was in high school. But I have to give kudos to Winona Ryder. It is great seeing her back, and her performance as Will's mother was so compelling and so moving. I personally believe that this series moved the way it did because we had an actress of the caliber of Winona. Now, yes, she is a former crush, I will admit this, but it wasn't just her beauty. She had always portrayed these characters, a wide variety of them, and was always very compelling with them. And this was actually one of my favorite performances by her. There are a lot of things that basically call back to Stephen King in this series. We have basically, the governmental conspiracy, something you saw in Firestarter as well as The Mist. And you also saw basically the camaraderie of the friends. Now, people will say that this show actually, is a mix of King, and Steven Spielberg. And you could see that with the more of the childlike aspects of Spielberg, because Spielberg was very great with basically bringing out the innocence and more of the realism of children, right? However, Stephen King, if you actually read a lot of his novels, right, children play a very important part. Not only with the part the kids played in his novel It, but you also have to harken back to basically, the importance of the children, particularly in Salem's Lot, Firestarter, as well as The Lawnmower Man, But those are things that will be discussed some other time in the future. But Stephen King right here, but while this is closely related to Stephen King, there is someone else that is highly, highly influential in this series, and I don't think his name gets mentioned enough, and that is H.P. Lovecraft. Now, H.P. Lovecraft was a horror writer in the early 20th century, sometime in the 20s and the 10s, and he is actually a short story writer, and he has influenced so many horror writers. A lot of Stephen King's work is a direct influence from his, and I was not aware of this. It actually had to be brought to life by a couple of internet reviewers. So, brief shout out to that long-haired creepy guy, and another shout out to Mr. H Reviews. Both of them displayed how Lovecraft was very, very much a part of a lot of horror movies. In fact, if you're a fan of quote-unquote horror movies and horror video games, with the movie aspect, at least for the past 45 years, and some of the video games, 70% of them are highly influenced by H.P. Lovecraft's work. And you see that in Stranger Things, particularly on when they're referencing a lot of the Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and as well as basically when they talk about an alternate reality, So, two more points that I want to bring up before I close this video. Number one, this show is very unpredictable. When you think something is going to happen and it's following this formula, don't let that fool you, because while it follows the formula to a degree, it doesn't go the full way, which is very reassuring and very surprising. I thought that, these people were going to get together and then these people were going to break up. I thought this person was going to be the complete douchebag and everything, and then turn out to have a heart of gold, where no, they were a complete douchebag and everything. So this show is very unpredictable, number one. Number two, it also heavily basically, makes you feel nostalgic for the 80s. It really brings imagination to the forefront. Now, as a kid from the 80s, all kids have wild and rampant imaginations, but I don't think imagination has had the payoff as it did in the 80s, with a lot of great movies coming out and a lot of great concepts that were so far out there that people struggle to this day to try to reconnect to the vast imaginations people had and that were like manifested in the 80s. So, what do we have? We have a great series, great characters, great performances, a very imaginative and interesting plot, and as well, excellently shot and easy to follow and understand, highly relatable. Guys, it should be no surprise that basically Stranger Things Season 1 is amazeballs. I highly recommend you guys watch Season 1 if you haven't yet before you watch Season 2. And if you're not even interested in trying to watch it before Season 2, just go on Netflix, watch the season, and you'll love the show. Agree? Disagree? Drop me a comment below. Give me a like. Follow me on Facebook as Token Dave or on Twitter as Token Dave 80. Subscribe and ring that bell so you know when a new video loads. But until then, this has been Token Dave, the dorky token black guy who's just trying to get by, and I'll catch you guys later.